right, so welcome to Secret Entourage, Brett. I know that we've been trying to connect for some time now, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit with us today. Uh, you have one of the most unique stories, I think, out of just about anybody I know, and so I was really excited to actually be able to feature you and have a conversation with you. So I want to kind of just jump straight into it. I myself was in a leadership position when I was 18 years old, very young, and however, I wasn't really forced into it. It was something that I undertook on my own. You, on the other hand, have had a different story because right about 19, you pretty much took over two of the largest dealerships, like in the United States. So, can you tell us a little bit about how that journey started and what happened around that time that forced you into that position?
Of course, of course. And let me start off just with a correction because I'm just going to lead into the story. Lamborghini was the number one dealer at the time, but Audi, we were far, far, far back in the ranks. We were actually slowly starting to climb, and I think that at the beginning that was the turn of something called the South Florida Audi phenomenon. But January 20th, 2007, on my father's birthday, I unfortunately found my father passed of his fourth heart attack in his sleep. All four heart attacks were based off of stress. He was a good, slender, slim guy, worked out daily, and this was something that I knew was completely because of the business. I understood that this was a man that didn't work to live; he lived to work. He loved what he did, and he built a business off of a passion that he created when he was my age, when he was 19 and 20. Coming all the way up to Philadelphia, his first job was selling cars right out of the military, and he worked for a guy named Ron Levitt. And working for a guy named Ron Levitt at the time who was doing 500, 600, 700 cars a month back in the day with no internet, no telephones, no real online communication, he watched this man create a business, but at the same time he watched it implode within a 2, 3, 4 year span. And that had always stuck in such fear in my father's life. I think that's the reason that my father didn't want to grow to certain points or certain extents. He almost kept himself so sheltered and unique to what he was able to build. And he was so scared of, God forbid, that ever disappearing. So when he did pass, and at 56 years old on his birthday, within a few days later, it was a big boardroom table of me, my mother, my sister, and I have a sister who's only 4 years younger than me, and she's my only partner in business. And it's all of us sitting there at the table, and my mother and my father were divorced at the time. Amazing relationship, probably one of the best divorces that somebody can go through. They remained great friends. I never witnessed fighting. It was a mutual dispart, and this was something where they sat in front of me and they kind of said, Brett, what do you want to do? This is the scenario. And my mother, being the type of mother she is, she gave me the opportunity to make the proper decision. And it's the same, goes to that same decision years prior when my mother relocated over to Jersey with my sister and I stayed in Miami by ourselves. We always had that communicative relationship. It was very real and honest. And you also keep in mind that I have a 50% partner in my business, which is my sister. Everything that I do, she's involved with. And her at the time when I was 19, that only placed her in a position of being 15. So my mother had to make decisions and judgments based off of her side and character as well. So when they sat in front of me and they handed me a letter, and the letter was a handwritten letter, and it was expressed by the attorneys that had wrote the estate next to my father because all these guys were still around at the time. Brett, if you're reading this letter and I didn't die of a car accident, a boat accident, a motorcycle accident, I passed away because of stress of the business, and I have no interest in you being involved. I want you to sell. This is the broker I want you to use. This is the agent I want you to use. This is the percentage ratio, the multiple I think it's worth. And this was done probably 6, 7, 8 months prior. So my father wasn't sick. He didn't know he was going to pass. It wasn't one of those things. It was just weird how life came about. And it also flows into how when my parents got divorced and my mother relocated up to Jersey, what was the main reason I didn't go with her and I stayed with Dad when my relationship with my mother at the time was so strong, and me and my father I was young. My father was, a middle-aged guy going through his midlife crisis with different girls and working hard, and my mother was the one that did my homework with me. So it was weird that I ended up staying. But it came to a point that I read this letter, I look at my mother, I look at the people that were in the boardroom, and everybody's talking to me about financials. Everyone's talking about money, about what's going to happen, what could occur, what lifestyle you can live. And it really didn't mean anything to me because I realized that my father passed because of the business. He passed because of something he built, and he never allowed it to grow because he really was a micromanager. He put his thumb on top of everybody and wanted to be able to hold them so tight and only gave them enough rope for them to hang themselves with. So when we finally sat there and I kind of looked at everybody with a crazy face and said, I really want to continue, you got to give me a chance. If I fail, I fail. If I fail, I tried. I can't be that 19-year-old kid. And the truth is, Don, I was that guy. I was that young kid. I was that kid that had a black American Express in my pocket and drove around in Lamborghinis and thought I was invincible because my daddy owned a Lamborghini dealership. It was ridiculous, my mentality. It was ridiculous the way that I thought. And like you and I had that conversation in the showroom, Don, about how you see people on the opposite sides of the desk coming in and buying cars. I wanted to try. My mother looked at me and my sister looked at me and they gave me the green light. Everybody around me thought I was out of my mind. They thought I was crazy. You're going to fail. You're 19. Why would you give them a chance to continue? And we did. And it slowly started in the progression of me realizing what I needed to focus on, what was already running itself. Like at the time, Lamborghini used to carry Audi, where Audi was a smaller volume brand. And Lamborghini was this higher profit margin in certain vehicles. My father sold less volume, but more quantity, where Audi was different and needed a little bit of a push. Audi needed to be able to evolve in South Florida, and it was either going to become one of those mainstream high import group brands like Mercedes and BMW, or it would have fell on its tush like Jaguar or any of the rest of the brands that are now on its lower end peak. So there were two big things that I needed to focus on. One was about 10 days after my father passed, I walked in and signed up with Bank of America to buy Lamborghini Palm Beach, which at the time was a concept. There was a contract out there, but there was no hard asset. And yes, we had the franchise. So at the same time, there was also a different variable, Don. I had an opportunity to open Audi Pembroke Pines, where Audi Pembroke Pines probably would have been the smarter option, the more profitable option, the realer option that would have let them, sustain through the economy. But instead, me being 19 years old on an ego trip and puffing my chest, I want to be the big Lamborghini dealer. I'm going to open up 2 Lamborghini stores. When I wish somebody would have sat in front of me and slapped me and said, "What the hell are you talking about?" So with that all going down, there was only so much brick and mortar that I could build. We really buckled down and we focused on Audi. And Audi was probably the first big challenge. At the time there was 60-something employees, which now we grew Audi to have over 85. And we started something called the Audi Phenomenon. And it was all based off of organic marketing. How can I get the customer through the door? How can we develop this Audi business without going out there and spending excessive numbers on advertising? Because at the end of the day, Don, I still was 19. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I had no idea the ratios of what my advertising budget should be compared to my gross profits, or I just was young and stupid. So I needed to figure out, okay, we need to get cars on the road. We have so many competitive dealers in the marketplace. I don't want to build a new Audi store, so let's go win Audi over by going and becoming number one. And my number one goal really wasn't to be number one, because we jumped so many places to get where we were. And long story short, Don, we jumped Audi up in 11 months because I came to play as CEO. My father passed on the 20th. I came to play, let's just say, for our article's sake, let's say February 1st. We had 11 months to transform Audi to do 2,006 cars in 2007. It was the largest increase of Audi's history ever, of any dealership to be pushed that volume, and we became the number one Audi dealer in the country. And how we did that was, I had to realize, being in Miami, everybody in this flashy, fictitious type of a city wants to drive an Audi. They want those 4 rings on the front of their hood. They want to be young and youthful. They want to be different. And I had to figure out a way to get my customers to be able to come in and drive Audis for free. So they came in, and there was a referral program at $100 per car. And if your Audi payment was $500, I would have no problem with sending you a $100 bill if you sent me one customer. So customers were out there marketing for us. It was almost like a multi-level marketing company. We had customers out there going out there and saying, you know what, let's go get my buddy, my cousin, my niece, my nephew, my best friend, my first dog's owner, my veterinarian. And all of a sudden, this organic growth happened overnight at Prestige.
So
and
let me stop you for 1 second here.
Go for it.
I really like what you said, but what was it that made that work? Because I know a lot of dealers use the refer program, and it doesn't necessarily work as well as it did for you. So why did this particularly work well here? Was it because it was in Miami, or was it just because it was Audi?
I think it was a perfect storm of things. I think, one, in 2007, the economy was still on its upward peak up. The drop didn't happen until mid-2008, where you and I both know people were overextending themselves to be able to drive a fancier car when maybe they know they shouldn't. Also, the rates and residuals of these vehicles were so high at the time that, Don, I was walking out and you were able to buy an Audi A4 for $299 a month. or you were able to buy a Q7 back then.